Hey everyone, it's Monica. Welcome back to Homeschool Voices. In today's video, I'm going to tell you how to make homeschool fun. The first way that I would suggest that you put some fun back into your homeschool is consider game schooling. If you don't know anything about it, it's time to do a Google search, or better yet, a DuckDuckGo search, and look up the term game schooling. You would be surprised what you can learn with games. Let's take little kids. Hi-Ho, Cherry-O, Shoots and Letters, all of these games teach number sense. They teach counting and just identifying the numbers depending on the game. And for older kids, you could have a game like Constitution Quest, where you actually learn a lot about the Constitution by playing a game. There are other fun games as well. Think about science. There is a really fun Magic School Bus game for younger kids. For older kids, there are chemistry games and biology games that actually make learning these subjects fun. And of course, it's going to be learning at a more basic level, but it does build an interest, and that's very important. So you can do a lot of great games with math. One of my favorite ones recently is called National Number Knockout. And that one, your child needs to have a notion of square roots and exponents. And there's a set of rules. I don't want to get into it, but it's really fun. So just look that one up. National Number Knockout. My kids actually really like it. And it really works their math muscles in their brain. You know, I think as a society, we're so set on this notion that we have to follow this certain sequence and do it in a certain amount of time, and our kids have to be at a certain level at a certain age. And it's funny because the result is your average adult struggles with middle school math. So that to me is not a success, and it's not a good path to follow. You don't want to copy that sort of public school way of thinking or that government school way of thinking in your homeschool. You want to try to do stuff differently. All of this leads me to another important point that I want to make with you, is that you can play all the fun games in the world, but they really need to be child-led. So your child really needs to opt in as much as possible. So while it may be the most fun game in the world for you, you have to make sure that your kids want to play as well. If your child is not opting in, then they're going to be negative about the game, and whenever they're negative, they're not learning very much. I think there are a few circumstances where your kid can be negative and they'll still learn. Like honestly, when they're learning to read, they'll still learn and they're not going to forget it, but they will learn more slowly. So ideally, we want our kids to have fun, and we do want them to be positive whenever we can make that happen. It's not always going to happen, but it's good to try. But child-led isn't just for games, it's for everything really. So in our homeschool, we follow a literature-based approach. At the end of this video, I'm going to link to another video that explains it, and in the description of that video, there is a document that you can download with instructions, detailed instructions. But the gist of it is that there are certain categories: reading, which is broke down into different categories, writing, and math. And my children have a lot of flexibility and a lot of latitude to pick what they want to read about and what they want to write about. In the beginning, this was a bit of an adjustment because they were so used to being told what to do. Not a good thing though, really, you know. So I am happy to say that they have adjusted and that they pretty happily pick what they want to write, very happily pick what they want to read. Another important tip for making learning fun is to make learning social whenever possible. For some people, when I say this means co-op. Well, you can go that route, but you don't have to. Sometimes making things social just means playing games with your kids or sitting down and just enjoying that time. Today, my son was having trouble with math. He was really frustrated. His personality is that he really likes to understand the why. I was the same way, so I understand. I don't like to just move on and know how to do it. I want to know why it works that way. And he was having a hard time wrapping his brain around it. In the past, I would have had the attitude that, okay, we need to move on. We have a lot of stuff to do. We have to accomplish this, and then we have to move on. You need to just learn how to do it and stop worrying so much about the why. Honestly, that's a terrible attitude to have. What's the point of moving on when you don't understand the why? Why do we feel the need to move at a certain pace? Why do we feel the need to make every child a math genius and to try to ensure that every child is doing calculus and trigonometry, you know, by the time they finish high school? That's not necessary. And not to say that my son won't do that, but I'm just saying that's the mentality that stresses us out. We really feel like we have to keep up with a certain pace. And in California, a lot of you guys are with charter schools, and they really make you feel like you have to keep up with a certain pace. So what I did today was switch that little switch off in my brain that said, I have stuff to do. And I said, you know what? I'm going to enjoy this time with my child today. And I did. I just sat down there. I was patient. When he didn't understand things, I gave him time to explain his understanding. I looked at it as quality time together instead of math time where we have to figure certain things out at a certain pace or else it's a big problem and I need to get a tutor. I mean, I trust that my child will learn. And I'm not concerned about the pace or exactly what is getting learned and when it's getting learned. Even writing is often thought of as a solitary endeavor, but it can be social as well. So for my daughters today, I started a story. I was very proud of my story that I started, and I gave it to her, and I said, okay, now you get to write the next part. And actually, it's sitting right up there on my dresser, and I am going to read it very soon. I'm very excited to read it. But this whole back and forth can be very fun. You can get creative with writing. It doesn't have to be just a back and forth story. Maybe you write letters back and forth, or maybe you pretend that you're some little garden gnome and you get an actual garden gnome and put letters. You can get creative. People are way more creative than me. The idea is, how can you have fun with writing, especially if your kid is struggling or maybe a little negative? How can you make them mentally opt into the experience and make it fun? So stop thinking of everything as some scientific approach, and if you just follow this writing approach, this language arts curriculum, you're going to have an amazing writer. What you really need is a child to mentally opt in. And the question is, how can you get your child to mentally opt in? It's not always easy. There's no clear answers, but when you approach it in a light-hearted way, you remove the stress from the situation, because the stress is causing problems. It's causing problems for you and it's causing problems for your kid. And that stress comes from this feeling that we have to follow a certain pace, that certain things have to be done, certain things have to be learned. If you are learning your child is learning all the time, they're not just like playing video games all day, and they're not just like laying around just doing nothing all day. But if they are learning on a regular basis, you have nothing to worry about. You don't have to follow a certain curriculum. You don't have to check all the boxes or any of the boxes. Reading can be social too. You can read to your kids. I actually still read to my 14-year-old. I read to my husband. My husband reads to me. Reading can be social. It doesn't have to be solitary. And I think that's why a lot of kids aren't super interested. The first reason most kids aren't interested is because reading is still a chore to them. And nobody likes a chore. Nobody wants to work. We all want to relax. We all want to, kick up our feet and eat bonbons basically all day long. And if it's work, no one's going to want to do it, right? So that's the big reason. But the other reason is that it's solitary. And a lot of times kids don't really want to be solitary. So you can read to them, number one. First thing, right off. Another thing that you can do, and another video of mine, actually I'll link to that one as well at the end, is reading out loud. It's really important for your kids to read out loud. But what you can do is you can alternate. You can read to them, they can read to you. You can read to them, they can read to you. So you can have them pick a book, or you can pick a book that you think they would like, but maybe they're a little resistant to reading it. I've done this on more than one occasion, and the result has been super positive. My kids end up reading the book and liking it. So try it out. Try to make reading social too. All of these things are really good ideas if I don't say so myself, but the most important thing that you have to do if you want to make your homeschool fun is change your outlook. And that is the biggest thing, and I think it's the hardest thing for parents to do. We don't want to screw our kids up. We're really anxious about it, and that anxiety is causing stress, and it's rubbing off on your kids. It's making them negative about school, and it's making you negative about school. You have to change your outlook. You have to look at this homeschool experience not as like you doing this second-rate job that teachers could do better, but as a whole different thing. It's a whole different outlook on life. You have to look at this as a chance to spend quality time with your children, to enjoy their company. And when you shift your thinking like that, then wonderful things happen. You can actually, a child who's maybe a little frustrated with math, to be interested in figuring it out. If you look at it as quality time, they're going to feel like it's quality time. If they feel like it's quality time, they're going to start to develop a positive association with it. But if you're so worked up about following a certain pace, everything's going to be negative. You're going to be negative. They're going to be negative. They're going to hate school, and they're going to want nothing to do with it. I'm not saying that your whole day has to be super fun and super exciting for your kids, and you're going to be like a clown, right? Like, you've seen teachers and they're amazing. Some of them are absolutely amazing and they just make everything fun. And maybe you're not like that. You know what? I'm not like that. But you can work here and there to inject some fun, right? Like, I played that fun math game with my kids. It took me time. I learned it and we played it and they like it. It took me time to come up with a little story, but I came up with it. So when you shift your thinking, though, you can't have it all. You cannot have the public school structure with checking all the boxes and that pacing and the fun homeschool. It doesn't go together. So the biggest thing is just to change your outlook and look at it as quality time. Plug away, be positive, try to insert as much fun as possible so you can make the experience positive so that they will be more receptive to learning and to actually soaking up that information. Because if it's boring, if kids are negative, they put up a wall and they don't learn. I hope that was helpful. I would really love to hear your thoughts. Please tell me in the comments below. If you like this video, please click thumbs up. If you want to hear more videos like this, please click subscribe and the notification bell next to it. In the meantime, happy homeschooling and have a great day.